Hey everybody, it's Matt. Welcome back to the Journey Church podcast. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you can automatically get our weekly episodes. And you might want to go ahead and subscribe to our Journey YouTube channel as well. You'll find messages, music, interviews, inspiring stories, and more for you all right there. Now, I hope this episode helps you take your next step in following Jesus.
I'm excited to wrap this up because Matt has done a wonderful job of teaching us all throughout the last week the impact of grace on us and what grace does for us. And I wanted to start with a quiz. Is that cool? Can we all start with a quiz? Let's see what you guys remember from the last 4 weeks. Matt's version is you guys won't remember. Okay? So let's just see if you guys can define grace. There were 3 words Matt used to define grace the last 4 weeks. Anybody remember any of them? Undeserved is number 2. What's the first one? Unearned. Who said that? Well done. Yes. Unearned, undeserved. Can you go 3 for 3? What's the last one? Unexpected, out of nowhere, from the corner. Yes, great job. Again, you guys listen to Matt more than I thought. But no, seriously, think about the concepts that we've been looking at and how this defines what it is that Jesus' death did for us. We did not deserve it. Right? It was unearned. There's nothing we could do to work for it. It's unexpected because God came in and did it even though we weren't even asking for it. We were actually on our way away from Him. And so this leads us to today to wrap up this series. Is the reason that Jesus gave us grace is just so we could enjoy a relationship with Heavenly Father and that we could get a ticket to heaven? Is that what grace was about? Well, yes, but that's not all. So I want to ask you a question before we get into today's real part of it. But that question is, what do you do now that you have received grace? Like, now that you have grace, what do you do with it? Do you just sit back and enjoy the fruits of Jesus' labor for you? Do you just sit back and wonder at how great it is? Yes, that's part of it. But here's what we're going to try to figure out today. Is there a path in which we start to understand that grace is actually something that pushes us forward, it moves us forward? Here's what Paul said in Ephesians about it. He said, "For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves, it is a gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast." In other words, Paul's being really clear here, guys. It's unearned, it's undeserved, it's unexpected, but listen, you didn't deserve it, you didn't earn it. There's nothing about that. But I want to tell you something. Now that you have grace, there's something powerful at work, not just in getting your relationship with God, but in something in you that's going to push you forward. Here's how he ends up in this little passage. He says, "For we are God's handiwork." And that word handiwork could be the word for the word masterpiece. Like your life is a masterpiece that He's working on, created in Christ Jesus to, read it, to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. The good works aren't what saved you, but it is a response to the grace you have. And now, listen, now you have been freed to do what you were originally created to do. You're not held back by the other things that were holding you back. You now have grace that solves the problem you couldn't solve so that you could actually now be free to do what God created to do. Isn't that amazing? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to bring up to the stage some folks who we love their story. We love what God's grace is doing in them, but also what God's grace is doing for them. I want to introduce you to, if you have not met before, David and Shayna Miles, who lead the Levi Miles Foundation. Would you guys join me on stage and welcome them up? You guys might recognize the Levi Miles Foundation because we actually gave some of our offering last year, the 4th offering, to Levi Miles Foundation. And so we kind of built somewhat of a working relationship with them. And I got to sit down with you guys a few months ago to kind of talk through today and what that might look like in the story. But these folks who really don't know your story, would you guys tell us just a little about who you are, but how do we get to who's Levi Miles and what's this foundation about? Can you guys tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start off. I'm David Miles, and I'm going to do it this time. This is my smoking hot wife, Shayna.
He loves to embarrass me everywhere we go, so it's like always a comment. Yeah.
Well done, David.
Thank you. So Shayna and I, we started the Levi Miles Foundation as something to help families all across the U.S., really. We strive to provide support and resources to children with disabilities and to rare diseases, and all while promoting inclusion at the same time too. We started this foundation in memory of our son, Levi Michael Miles, and Shayna's going to give you a little bit more about his life that we got to be blessed to be a part of.
Yeah, so my firstborn, Levi, was born in January 2019. It was a easy pregnancy. I dare say that in front of some women because I get it. So, but it was my daughter got me back later. So, but anywho, it was easy pregnancy. Everything was really great. We had him, and for the first year of his life, things were just amazing. I mean, and I share this, but I'm a perfectionist. So I had his college picked out, the preschool picked out, all the things, right? Everything that could have been planned, I had planned or tried to. And everything was just perfect. And his first Christmas, I went way overboard. So he was the only child. So it's the whole living room had to be filled with gifts and just wanted to shower him with love and all the things, all the embroidery, you name it, we had it done. And our worst nightmare happened when we woke up for Christmas Day. He was sick for the first time in his life. So we went almost a year without getting sick. So that was great. But he woke up and couldn't open his presents. His hands were trembling. Started falling over, struggled to speak. He was able to, but then started stuttering just all of a sudden. So we quit opening presents and had this feeling inside of us to immediately go to Vanderbilt. So we drove as fast as we could, which was a 2-hour drive. So we made it there in about an hour. So, we got there and rushed in, and we expected somebody to just fix it, and we expected someone just to be done, and just wanted answers, everything to just be taken care of. And that we were standing in the room, and that was the last time that I ever heard my son say "mama." It was the last time that he ever walked. And then all of a sudden, the next thing I know, we're holding our child down, and we have to have all these IVs in them and everything, and just trying to figure out what's wrong and what's happening. And I'm trying to explain this to our 1-year-old that it's going to be okay. So, yeah, we left the hospital not knowing what was happening. So that seems strange, but they just told us that he was sick and that he would recover more than likely, and that we would do tests and to put him in therapy. And so we did all of the things. We're on the phone with, we built what I call our A-team. We built an amazing team of therapists and doctors that we put together for Levi as soon as we were going to get back home a few weeks after Christmas. And he never recovered. So your worst, everybody's worst nightmare of, they're going to get better. He never did. So we're in all of these therapies and all of the things, and he's still not walking. He's still not talking. Now the stuttering has went away, and he can't say my name anymore.
So yeah, moving forward past that, because I don't know if her or either one will be able to keep talking about that part of it. But so we move on. We go through the next month. We end up going back for a follow-up appointment back up at Vanderbilt. And at that time, he had an MRI, and the doctor called down to the recovery room where he was coming back to from where they had to put him to sleep for an MRI. And they said, something's bad wrong. We don't know what it is. We're admitting you again. And at that time, we get up to the room, and my wife and I, Shayna she goes to start, take a shower, get cleaned up, and I'm holding Levi outside or on the couch there in the room. And at that time, we never talked about this until after Levi passed away, but we both surrendered Levi's life up to Christ at that point in time. And we said, we trust you. We know we can't do anything else. As parents, especially as men, I don't know because I'm not a woman, but I know as a man, God, that's all we want to do. We want to fix. We're going to do whatever we can do. We're fixers, right? That's way we're wired. And this, I knew I couldn't fix. I knew there was nothing else that we could do, that I could do. And we both surrendered Levi over to Christ and said, God, he's in your hands now. Whatever is going to take place from this point on, we know he's in your hands. And at that point in time, we surrendered that, but that didn't mean the work was done. We continued every single day, day in and day out for the rest of his life. He was able to go and attend daycare at the school that she teaches at that is for teachers' kids. He was able to go and attend there. He had a full-time nurse there with him all day, every day, going through life, fast-forwarding. He lost his ability to eat by mouth. He had to have feeding tubes. So, days started at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting up and giving medicine, starting to feed so that his feed could be over with by the time he could get up and get dressed and they could get out the door to get to school, and toting tons of equipment and bags. And
yeah, we we have a 2-minute drive to school. I'm really not that far, but you would think that I'm always late. So it's like, man, she's the closest one to school,
Fast and furious.
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing when I roll in. But in my defense, Levi had like 3 bags with him, and then my purse and if I had my laptop or whatever, all the things that we carried him, because we didn't know what was happening again. But he was unable to eat at that time, so he was vomiting a lot, and he might vomit twice just before we even made it to school. And then I always joke about this, but this was serious. It was in the car, and it was on me every time. So I'd get him out, and he'd look at me and just vomit all over me. Picture day, I would always laugh at that. That's actually my favorite photo of me in the yearbook, but it's like vomit is all in my hair. So but that was a typical day, and then we make it across the sidewalk to even get in the building, and someone's like, "Do you need help?" So nice, but no, I just need my hair to be washed. but yeah, so then we go there, and he goes all day which was a very nice thing that my school has, but it was for teachers' kids, and all day at this daycare. And like David said, we had a full-time nurse and all the things that we worked on for it to be a typical day for him. But we didn't know at all, this whole time, we didn't know what was going on. We eventually we opted for genetic testing, and we eventually got that completed, and come to find out that it falls under a leukodystrophy. So to this day, Levi is the only recorded case with that particular kind of leukodystrophy. So extremely, obviously, very rare, but they've never seen anything like that. Levi opted to donate to research, and even though he lost the ability to talk, we were able to teach him how to use a communication device. Those things are amazing. So he was able to quickly touch things, and would do that quicker than I could even, generate that little iPad of his. But he opted to do that, and so at this point, we have obviously laid everything down, but we never knew what was going to happen. We never knew when the end was going to be. We never,
day at a time.
Yeah, we didn't have, we had to take everything a day at a time. I didn't know, I didn't get to share this with the last experience, but I didn't know if he was going to make it to the next Christmas. I didn't know if he was going to make it to his birthday. Those things that the old me would have had planned out, 5 years in advance, I couldn't do that. I had to learn how to live differently and to live each day at a time and be 100% present in the moment. Not because I didn't know what was going to happen, not because we had an idea that it was terminal but really didn't know, but because we just sat and marveled at just being with him.
So with the foundation, you guys learned a lot in that time period, and even though it was a short time period really with Levi here, you learned a lot about what it was like to be alone in that process, things that weren't provided for a child with his kind of disabilities or being able to be included in stuff. So talk to me about the foundation, what it's trying to do to walk beside families and kids now.
Yes. Yeah, so as we started we knew early on, even when Levi was still with us, that we wanted to start a foundation. We found so many holes in the system of middle class working families that don't always get insurance approval for this or for that or for anything like that. But it is medically necessary, and we get to see that. We saw that firsthand. So we wanted to start this foundation, and we wanted to start it to provide these opportunities for kids to be together in the same room doing the same activities side by side, and together as the way everything was intended to be there with that. And so we started the foundation, and we started on the principles of what the things that we had learned and experienced in life with Levi. The services that we offer, it's kind of broken down into 3 categories, and then we have a special projects category off on separate line there. But we help kind of start off providing care packages for kids that if we hear, that are in our network, or kids that we hear of that may be in the hospital having a rare surgery, might have a disability of some sort in a rare disease, that are going in and out of feeding tube therapy, or
just got a diagnosis, anything like that. And those are shipped all across the United States. So that's been really neat because we've been able to network with a lot of different families.
Yeah, and we do equipment lending. We've got tons of adaptive equipment. We donated all of Levi's equipment, which is about $100,000 worth of equipment, just to this program to lend out to families that might need an extra piece at school, that might outgrow one and need another one. These pieces go out free of charge to these families. We also put on kids camps. We put on 4 camps a year. They all have different themes, but at these camps we have kids of all ability levels. We have kids all the way from kids that may be in mobility devices, all the way up to kids with no disabilities whatsoever, but they're able to get together, and we create the environment and opportunity for them to do the exact same things all side by side. These things are like, we put on an art camp, a rodeo camp. We actually rent out the expo center several years in a row, and we put on a rodeo camp there. We also partnered with, here you go ahead in that part.
We partnered with Best Buddies International nonprofit to also infiltrate programs within all of Henry County area. And we also provide funeral expense. We take care of that. That was something, like Jarrod was saying, things that weren't done for us. We thankfully had that completed for us, but everything else we did on our own. This entire time that I've been describing we just went a day at a time, we were also working the entire time. He went to this program, and we continued to work and just continue to live. So all of these services that we provide, we want to make sure that everybody has the support that they need, and just that they're not alone.
Well, you guys didn't mention the biggest project that you're in the middle of, and you're really close to finishing. Do you guys want to talk about the playground a little bit?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's our playground. This is an animated flyby of our playground. This is our biggest project, and this is outside of the services that we give on a daily basis. This is a $2.5 million project that we've taken on here. We wanted to design a playground. We designed and are building this playground to where every kid can play on every piece of equipment out there and be challenged on it at the same time. Everything is built into the ground. It's ground level. We take advantage of slopes and everything else so that there are no steps, and we even have a little toddler area here. We tried to think of everything by looking through a different, zip lines here.
Yes. So any different kinds of seats, you see every different type all in one location.
Yeah. And so this is located where?
This is at Ogburn Park in Paris, and it takes up it's about an acre and a half roughly in size.
And so what would be your vision for this opening day? What would this look like when you get this opened in the next, hopefully, couple of months, right?
Yes, we're hoping for a couple months. We want to see this entire park packed. We want to see every single community coming together, not even just the folks in Paris, Tennessee, but folks outside of Paris too. You guys, everybody. This will be the first certified inclusive playground in the entire state of Tennessee. So we are very, very excited to put this on the mark, but to also include every child from all different walks of life, even from little bitties all the way to older kiddos.
What I find interesting was when we talked about this playground the first time, you guys actually mentioned that there's a certification level. You guys are certified, but you guys actually pioneered some pieces in this playground that go beyond certification because you knew what Levi would have needed. Yeah. And you didn't want to have a playground that didn't have something Levi could be in. So is there any specific piece here that you can talk about?
Actually, the entire thing is, and the reason I say that is because this will be featured on the equipment that we decided to go with. The company is actually going to feature our entire playground. So now they're going to market this as like hey, if you want this playground, this inclusive playground, you can get this
We
$2.5
are-
million.
This is new that now they're kind of
Yes.
adopting this as the new standard for what
Yes.
inclusive playgrounds and accessible playgrounds
So
looks
how
like.
much left do you need to raise in order to finish this project
So
financially?
so we've raised quite a bit of money so far, and we're down to the last little bit. We've got approximately $100,000 left to fund this entire project. From beginning to end, that's all playground equipment. Concrete. There's a lot of concrete out there.
Yeah, a lot more than we ever realized.
Fencing, being able to put a full perimeter fence
Security
around,
cameras, yeah.
security lighting. We're down to our last $100,000.
That's amazing.
So what David didn't mention though was that I think this is our most proud moment of this, but $2.5 million and not a single penny. It comes from a grant or government funding of any sort.
No
This
state or
is
federal.
100% private funding and in-kind donations that folks are just out there doing the labor because they want to serve.
So you guys work full-time jobs,
Yes.
and then you work this full-time job together.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell me about how did God prepare you for this?
Yeah, out of the scriptures that you're using off this morning, God, the works that He has prepared for us, and God prepares our whole lives are what God is preparing for us in the future. Every moment of every day is we're being prepared for something more, something bigger that He has for us. I know in our instance here for this, when I was in school, all I wanted to be, my dream was to be a neurologist, and I wanted to focus on neuromuscular disorders and leukodystrophies. And I wanted to graduate, go to med school. I wanted to have a small clinic with a handful of kids with leukodystrophies that I could start doing research because I wanted to find a cure for that mean disease. Shayna, I didn't become that, by the way. It was a dream, like I said. So Shayna here, she wanted to be a nurse, and she wanted to go into nursing until she realized that she didn't like the sight of blood or needles. So instead, she's the next best thing. She is in special education as a teacher. Might add, she's going to be graduating this fall with her doctorate degree in education as well.
But what David's trying to say is that we were both prepared in crazy ways before we even met each other.
Yeah.
And then ended up being where we were able to use this knowledge, experience, skills to take care of our child when he needed it the most. But then also when we realized that we couldn't take care of him anymore, we laid it down. And like David was saying, we did that in two totally different ways, but at the exact same time. And we didn't even know that until later on. But there was nothing else that we could do. And I think back to the times where we prayed not for a cure, but for Jesus to take his hand, for him to go live with God. And I still cry about all this every time. But that was the best thing. I couldn't take care of him anymore. And through his grace, he was able to. And he's no longer hurting. He's no longer in pain. He's walking, he's talking, and all those things that he couldn't hear on earth. So by his grace, we were able to get through that time and also for him to go live with Jesus.
Yeah, you guys mentioned when we talked before that it went from sort of like living out of this one section of life, this perfection, to living out of purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Talked a little bit about how that switch happened for you guys. What did that look like?
Yeah, so I laid down the whole planning days. As you saw, I couldn't plan out birthdays or Christmas or anything. We just had to let that be. So one day at a time, we lived with purpose. Every single day, it was living in the moment. And every single day, it was just loving Levi. And we just let it go. I don't know how else best to explain that. It's just that we let it go. And when we let it go, everything ended up working out. God took care of us every single day. And it's still hard. There are still days that I struggle to get through, but I used to judge that. I used to think, before Levi, of course, but I used to think, how could someone lost their child? How could they get hooked on drugs? How could they take their own life? And I'm here to say 100% I could see how they could do that. 100%. But now thinking from a different way and different perspective of just living the life that he wants us to live and doing whatever that we possibly can to spread his love changes things for us, where our entire perspective changed from perfection to living with purpose.
Yeah. So David, in terms of all the work you're doing and you're being prepared for this, what's the kind of the driving force behind what's going on in the foundation now?
So for the foundation, as we continue on, one of the things that we strive to do is, and we'll continue, and the driving factor is it's love. If you've ever seen our logo, it says "Love like Levi," and love is the driving factor with all of that, right? So, and Jesus gives us the command in John. He says, "And I give you this command too. Love others as I have loved you." And to me, that's what it's all about. But that's the hardest thing to do too, right? Loving everybody else the way that Christ loves us. But that is something that we have to do with intentionality. In all of life, I won't take long on this.
You're good, bro.
In all of life. So if you look in the book of Exodus, right, it's the exo is the road out of, right? And the opposite of that, the anonym for that is endo, which is the road into. So in all of life, and relaying that to our lives here, we have the road out of our the path of sin, the path to hell. That road out of that and into the path with Christ whenever we devote and surrender ourselves to him. And Christ gives us that promise as in the road into that eternity, that kingdom of heaven that he is preparing for us, right? But the meantime, what happens in between the road out of and the road into? And that is what we do every day. That is the life that we live every day. And that is having that love for others, just as Christ loved us. And then also taking care, another part of that love is this, and it's the love back for Christ as well. In Matthew chapter 18, as the disciples and Jesus are sitting around, one of the disciples, they're like, who's going to be the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus has a little kid there next to him, and he picks him up, sets him on his lap. I can only imagine, it doesn't say that, but picks him up, sets him on his lap, and he says, "Truly I tell you, unless you have the heart of a child, you will not inherit the kingdom of heaven." So what does that heart of a child look like? If you've been around kids, or if you know kids, or it doesn't take long if you just sit and watch them, you can see this. A child is always going to change what their priorities and their wants are to be with you as their parent, or to be with somebody that they look up to, right? They're changing their everything about themselves to please you. So having a heart of a child as for us, what are our priorities? Are our priorities for ourselves, or are they to please Christ? Or are they to please God? Or they allow that Spirit to guide us, allowing that Spirit to use our stories that we are being prepared for now to change the future and to change someone's life in the future? Are we able to see differences in people? Because Christ didn't, right? He died for all of us on the cross. He took the weight of every bit of that. So in life, as we are preparing and going through, that is something in my life, I guess personally, that is a driving factor into what we try to pursue and do continuing on with this foundation.
Yeah. So let's wrap up with this final question. So what has God really done in you and is doing through you that you want to celebrate? Because there's a lot of things that were hard about this, but in the midst of all this hard work, and it takes hard work to run a foundation. This is no easy project to build $2.5 million. And then, like you said, the details of putting all that together. What's to celebrate about what is going on that you see God doing in you and through you right now?
You do better than I do, so I'll answer first. I'll let you wrap it up. It's not ours, right? So what we've been commissioned with is people entrusting in us and to really and truly to do the will of God with this. And I guess one of the biggest things is we don't want to take any credit or anything out of all of this project because it's for him. And one of the biggest thing God has taught me through all this, is not being anxious. Don't worry about tomorrow, for today has enough troubles of its own. And that is something that has continued to guide us through this. I used to be a big worrywart, but I no longer am, I guess. I try not to be anyway. I'm just like, hey, God's carried us this far, and He's done everything for us. He's held us in His hand through it all, and I'm going to continue to just stay right there and trust in that. And I'm going to walk sometimes, a lot of times, very blindly, but I'm going to walk and see where this road goes.
What about for you, Shayna?
For me personally, I'm completely changed. Where I was that perfectionist, individual and had all the details planned out and had all the planners and all this stuff and everything planned. I'm not that way anymore. I have tendencies of that, but I'm not. I thoroughly enjoy being in the moment. I enjoy loving other children, even though they're not my own. We've since had, more children through IVF, but that's a different story. But I'm not the same person as I used to be. And I was telling Jarrod this earlier, that it's neat because I've changed so much that I only want people to see God. I only want people to see, what would Jesus do, right? And the more that we love, the more that we give, and the more that we give back and do, the more that people see that, and the less they see of me. Because I only want them to see Him. And so I guess it's changed my life in such a big way that He's been able to work through me to where everyone else can see His love more.
Yeah. So, guys, this is the big question we have for you, because what they're talking about, and they said it so beautifully, is that God had prepared them for this. They didn't see it coming. And yet all through this, God had a purpose that was larger than what they could see. And now they're starting to uncover that purpose. So my question for you guys is, what good will you do with the grace that God has given you? And that doesn't mean everybody needs to go out and charter a foundation tomorrow. That's not what this is about. You don't need to become a missionary or a pastor. But perhaps for you, it's a passion project on the side. Or maybe it's actually in your work, how you have been prepared for this moment to work with these people at this place and this time in order to bring grace to bear on that place. And so we just want you guys to be aware that we don't think that this has to be a special story. It is a special story because it's theirs, but your story could also be like this, where God uses the grace in your life to expand your purpose and for you to realize that He has built you for this. And there's no better place, I think you guys agree, there's no better place to be, there's no more joyful place to be, more fulfilling place to be than step by step trusting God in the midst of that plan that He has for you and that purpose. So here's what I'll do. I want to pray for us all today. And hopefully you guys will wake up tomorrow and still be inspired to keep trying to figure out what God's purpose is for you. So let's pray together. Father in heaven, thank you for this this time we got to hear from Shayna and David. Thank you for what they are trying to do in Henry County and honestly throughout the nation to encourage people in the midst of their pain and struggle. God, thank you that you're using them to change people's lives and that their commitment to you and their commitment to loving like you is changing people. Thank you for the Levi Miles Foundation. Thank you for the people who've come along to help fund this playground. And thank you for this moment for us to learn from them. And may our faith be strengthened and encouraged by their story. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Hey, if you'd like more content like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel and download our Journey app to access all of our recent message content. And our app is the easiest way to share this content with a friend. For more information on our church or to find our app or our YouTube channel, just visit journeycalway.com. That's journeycalway.com. Thanks for listening.